agree is that if you look at the longer term trend of this market, do we think that the markets in the longer term, when I zoom out to go to the 1950s, do you think that this move, which dwarfs, I mean, I don't even know if you guys can see back here. It's so flat. All right, this was the market all the way up to the .com and then to the financial crisis where the Fed intervened and printed money. And my point of this is that if you look at the trend, the long-term trend of this market, what are we actually doing here? All right, well, if you look at the long-term trend, you could argue that you have a couple trend lines here that potentially are telling you that we could be in some major, major trouble. And again, this is something that would be the greater kind of evil kind of situation where you got an epic depression. But if this happens and you saw a retrace to these levels, and I don't think it's totally out of this world, I mean, you're looking at a longer term trend through this low here that actually takes you down to 12 to 1500 on the S&P 500. Now, for me as a trader, there's no way that I'm ever investing and going short for that target, right? I mean, there's too many levels along the way to be in, be out, and this could ultimately take a long time to kind of foresee. But I do think it's important to recognize that we are coming into the 100-year cycle of the Great Depression, right? 1929. It's only, 6 years away at this point, almost 5 years away. And so I do want to bring that attention to you. And the reason why I wanted to show you this big time frame is to really showcase that when Fed intervention occurred, this market went nuts. Now here, you can see the dot-com bubble and everything like that. That's fine. You know, that even looking back at that, the dot-com bubble is small relative to the Fed intervention. And the one thing I will say, folks, is that at some point, this big move has to unwind. And what I mean by that is that, you know, maybe we don't go back to this level down here. Maybe that doesn't happen. But if you're someone who doesn't think that at least we're going to come back to these levels over here, which is the COVID lows, right? If you don't think we're coming back into that range, I think honestly that's silly to think that you're not. All right, so there has to be a reversion. Things do not go up for infinity. If you throw a ball in the air, at some point it reaches its highest point and it starts to come in. And you could pump a balloon as high as you want, as much helium as you want, and it'll go up for a certain amount of time. At some point, that has to be taken out of the system, right? The helium eventually escapes and kind of wears down, and the balloon comes back to Earth. And my point here again is that we are at a point where they pumped that helium in, all right, whether it's from the financial crisis or from the COVID low, and you have had this meteoric rise. At some point, whether we go to new all-time highs up here or not, you're going to revert back down to some of these levels.